All right, what is up, guys? They did the podcast recently. I think it was either yesterday or the day before. Honestly, I don't know. All the days kind of just blend together. Um, but yeah, so they did the podcast recently, and they showed off a lot of stuff. Looking forward to the next wipe, and I just want to go over a couple things, just talk about them. How good I think they are, how bad they might be, that type of thing. And obviously, like you see here on the screen, you have what is going to be a new NPC and the gem socketing system, a first look at it. I think this is pretty interesting. Just because, so what it looks like, it looks like you're going to be able to pretty much put any stat on pieces. Um, Now, I'm not sure everything they showed in the podcast. I didn't really watch it myself. I was kind of like caught like glimpses and glances here and there, and I went on Reddit to see what they posted. So, but other than that, I mean, I know like a lot of the stuff they're doing. So, I'm just gonna like go over and talk about it like this. Hopefully I don't forget anything or leave anything out. So, by the looks of it, gyms are going to have like it looks like you're going to be able to pretty much do anything with gyms, right? Like you see here, like these and like there's rarities for these, so it's presumably like different rarities are going to do different stat rolls because it doesn't look like the rarity is tied to a specific stat. Like you see, like on this red gym, you have 1 to 3 physical power. So the thing I'm curious about with this is like whenever you put it on something, is it just going to roll a random value between 1 and 3? Is it going to always roll the same thing? And if that is the case, how exactly does it work? Can I like remove the gem and resocket it? Can I overwrite it? That type of thing. And once again, if they showed this in the devcast or the podcast, I have no idea. Like I said, so if they did, then feel free to correct me. And if or just don't say anything at all because who cares? Other than that, something I'm also curious about is how many gems can you put on an item? Because you see here we have like 3 different slots, which means, I mean, you could look at this and be like, okay, so you could put 3 different gems on something, or you could look at this and like you pick your slot and you overwrite that piece, which is, it's. I mean, I don't know. It is what it is. Also, the thing is to note to look at is the gems do seem to not have any sort of minimum roll or reduced maximum roll. Sorry, not minimum roll. They don't seem to have a reduced maximum roll as opposed to the normal items. You see it's +1 to 2 weapon damage here. So if you put this on a weapon, then instead of it rolling like, instead of a two-hander, only roll it like rolling 2 weapon damage, and then, maybe the normal one only rolls 1. Or like the maximum you could roll for like max health would be 3 instead of 5 or something like that. But that does not seem to be the case. It does seem to have an element of RNG in it, like I said, like where it rolls between like the base number and like the max number. Um, or this could just mean, it rolls depending on the piece it's on, because like certain pieces, like two-handed versus one-handed weapons, for example. One-handed weapons can only roll 1 weapon damage. Two-handed weapons can roll up to 2. So maybe on like a two-handed, you are guaranteed the maximum roll, or you're guaranteed the maximum roll for that thing, and it just says like 1.5 to 2% because that's like the maximum for a small piece and the maximum for a large piece. But who actually knows until we get in the game and find out for ourselves. Also, something else that's kind of interesting to look at here, not that it's like really important, is they did seem to buff max health duration here, or max health bonus here. It used to be 2% max or 2.5%, maybe after they might have buffed it, I'm not sure. But 3% is the max now, and that's a lot better. Same with 1.5% here. I don't know if they buffed this recently or this is going to be like a new thing coming up. But yeah, definitely better because this was like a really, really bad stat and it just wasn't that valuable. So, other than that, yeah, I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about with this. It definitely is interesting. I think if you are able to stock it as many pieces of gear as you want, like or as many gems as you want onto this, it would be really, really broken because then the entire meta is just going to come around farming gems, right? These are just going to be the most valuable things like ever, and you're just going to like buy these and farm these as much as possible, and then you get any random legendary weapon, and then you just put everything you want on it. So I'm assuming that maybe I'm missing the information. Like I said, maybe I just don't know it, and they have already said that you can't put multiple gems on the same item, or they'll eventually just change it and make it so you can only put a limited amount, which would be it makes the most sense to me. I think gems should be like it should be like a substitute for having a dead roll. It shouldn't be like I'm going to build my item from scratch for what I wanted. Like if I have a legendary item and I roll 3 out of 4 rolls, then I should be able to go and change that fourth roll to make it really, really good, rather than I have a 4 dead roll item and I just put 4 gems. Now it's perfect because that's just. I mean, on one hand, it would make it so gear has basically no value because, like, why would you ever buy an expensive item when you could just build the item yourself, right? So, I mean, that would help a lot of players, but I think then on the other hand, it would be kind of boring, right? That's one thing. Something else I'm actually pretty curious about is like how will this work with looting, right? So how will like, if I kill somebody, will their item like will I be able to like loot it like will I be able to take the item like that has the gem in it off of them? I mean, obviously you'll be able to take the item, right? But like will it have the gem? Is it going to have some sort of system where, the gem is like only for your character? Like if you like if I put it, it's like let's say I put physical power over buff duration and then somebody kills me and they pick up my Zwei, will it have like weapon damage, armor pen, fizz power, or will it have buff duration? Like, will it keep its gem socket? I mean, obviously the answer would be like, oh, it should keep it, but you never really know. Then, I'm assuming you won't be able to remove gems without destroying them. I'm hoping you will be able to remove them, but if you can't, I think that'd be kind of, I mean, not cringe, but it'd be a little annoying being able to like, not being able to remove your gem. Even like as long as I can remove it, I don't really care if it gets destroyed. I mean, that's perfectly fine, but I just want some way to remove it, right? I think that would be best. Then moving on, I think the next big thing, and I mean, this is just gonna be on the screen. I have like no other screenshots I want to show. I mean, I could pull up the Reddit, but like, hold on, actually, well, I got you guys. Pull up like the new map screenshots. But other than here it is. There you go. Other than this, I'm not actually going to talk about the map yet. I'm just going to like show this off because you guys haven't seen it. The qualities of the screenshots are like incredibly low. I don't know why the quality is so bad. This is just what they uploaded them as. I mean, shit PC, I guess, on somebody's end. But anyways, um, I think the next big thing is the random generated modules. I think that's a it's a pretty big one. So if you don't know now, and I don't mean like full like procedurally generated, I mean like they are taking the pre-existing modules in the game, they have revamped a couple of them, and now whenever you enter the dungeon, the layout is going to be completely random. We saw that, I believe, in like in the podcast they showed it off, like walking around some. Also, another big thing is Lich is now on Crypts. So the boss room that was formerly had the Horde and the Skeleton Champion and the Wraith and everything will now be on Crypts with the Lich in it, which means that in Inferno you're gonna have Ghost King and you're gonna have the Warlord, which is pretty cool. So, a couple interesting things. One is it depends. Okay, are they like making the random map gen to every map? Is it just crypts? Like because for example, like Goblin Caves. Goblin Caves is a really really big one that would benefit from this. Like it would benefit crazy from this because one thing about Goblin Caves is like everybody like rushes pretty much always to the same areas. You always have people running Troll Room. You always have people running Cyclops. You always have people running middle elevator room. And it's not even like just spawn rushing. Like, yes, spawn rushing happens, but it's not even just that. It's that people are like, they just go to these areas because they know everybody else is going to come to them too, so they can fight there. Or like, they people are going to try to boss, so they can go there and try to third party, like, or they cringe like cheese them on the boss and stuff like that. But then for things like spawn rushing, it makes it way way harder. You load up on the map, you know your general location, like you can pull up the map and be like, okay, I'm in the top left, but you don't know anything around you. You don't know, where modules are or anything like that. You could push with the like the thing is like if you look up on the map though and you see yourself like okay I'm on the top left, you can generally know the location of spawns even without knowing the modules because you can look at it and be like okay well I know people are going to spawn somewhere within a 2 to 3 module radius of me. I'm just going to go here and I'm expecting to find people. Like that's still going to happen. There still will be spawn rushing. However, it's going to be way more difficult because you don't know the areas you're going through, right? And the thing is, it's like you're like, okay, I'm gonna run here, and you run into a bad room. Like for example, I believe on the maps we showed, they had Donut back. If you don't know what Donut is, it's the room that has a there it's like 2 floors. On the top, there's a bunch of like skeletons and archers, and on the bottom, there's the chest with the little like the upraised dais, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. It's larger than that, but there's 2 skeleton archers, a chest, there's a health shrine on one side, and like it's just a really cancer room to go in. Also, X room I believe was shown on one of those, which isn't surprising to me because when they brought it back in Arena, I kind of expected that. But like if you run into these rooms, or what if you run into like even the boss room because that's randomly generated too. Like the boss room is no longer just in the middle of the map; it's randomly going to spawn somewhere around the map. Um, but like if you run into those things, then you're just like in like a really really awkward spot. You're like, okay, I can't like I can't just run through this to fight people. I can't spawn rush. And the same with like a couple other things along that. But I do think it's gonna be very interesting. And then tacked on top of that is Fog of War. I do think, because I don't think they actually posted any like the screen. Oh, I don't. They didn't like post any of the screenshots of, like the fog of war here. I was like scrolling through. I don't think, but um. Oh right, actually maybe you can see it right here in this. This is like Soapy's. Okay, it's like is this like Soapy streaming? Oh, here it is. Actually, great. Thanks, Soapy. Don't care about this. So this okay, bro. What is this quality? This is not HD. But anyways, you can kind of see it here. The fog of war is incredibly small. God, okay, this is actually tilting me like how horrible quality this is. Wait, maybe I can like pull up the stream. Wait 1 second, let me hide my case. All right, appreciate it, Sophie. Thank you. Okay, now you can see this actually like a lot better. You can see like it's like if you can look and like see the fog of war, like this is like incredibly small. Like even like looks like this right here is like a really good example. When you are walking down this hallway, you cannot tell what rooms are below you and what rooms are above you. You have no idea. Like you spawn in over here, you literally have no clue where you're at. You cannot see anything around you. I do think you probably need to make this a little bit bigger. Not by much, but definitely a little bit larger. Um, just because I mean, it's just having to step into every single room to see where you're at, or like look through every single door. I feel like it's just kind of annoying. Like it's at the point that it kind of defeats the purpose, of like of having a map because if you can't see where you are, what's the point? You'd be like you could have the logic of oh I can look at the map and see where I've been, but like I mean, can't you just like remember that? Like if you go from here up to pyramid, you should be able to remember what the things that came before, right? Like the value of a map is seeing where you're at in like relation to where everything else is. And I'm not saying fog of war is bad because I think it's a cool idea. I'm just saying that with how it currently is, it basically means the map gives you no value. Um, but other than that, yeah, like I mentioned, you can see right here, this is X room right here, which I'm not excited that they brought back. Then you have Donut over here. This is the room I was talking about that everybody calls Donut. But yeah, these two rooms, like if you push around and you run into these two rooms, it would be like super, super cancer. Like incredibly so. But yeah, that's that. Then moving back to what was I going for? Look the maps again. Okay, here they are. But yeah, moving back to like talking about stuff like that. And then after that, they did show us this map here, which is going to be the next map. It definitely looks really cool. It has like a like a pirate ship theme to it. There's like you're literally like on a ship by the looks of it. And overall, like I said, I think the quality's horrible, but it looks very interesting. I will say, one major issue with this map that I already noticed, that I'm sure a lot of you do too, this map is incredibly open. And that is not a good thing for this type of game because that problem when you have maps like this that are super wide open is just means everybody plays ranged, and you just don't ever get to go in melee fights or really close range fights at all. Like just like look at like an area like this, right? Like imagine somebody sitting up here just looking down at you. Like what do you do? Like maybe maybe you can go through here and get above them or something like that, but like you have to get through this door for one, or maybe you could go around. But that just puts you in like a really awkward position. Like overall, like I think the map looks cool. One thing I will say though is I don't. I mean, I'm sure you guys are noticing this too. There are a lot of ladders on this map. Ladder here. I thought there was one over here, maybe not. Ladder, but ladder here, ladder here. Was there another one over here somewhere? Yeah, I thought there was, but maybe not. But there are a lot of ladders on these maps, and if you have ever tried to climb a ladder in this game, these things suck. They feel like shit to go up and down. You get to the top and you try to get over, and it just like you get stuck here for a second. If they want to put all these goddamn ladders, they better have fixed it, right? Like I do not feel like having to climb up these ladders and getting fucking stuck on them. That's just gonna be really, really cancer. Um, Other than that, though, like I said, the map does look really cool. Like aesthetically, I think this map looks fantastic. I'm definitely really interested in that. I know a lot of people are gonna make crying about like reused assets and stuff, but like who cares, man? If the map looks cool, it looks cool. And I know like swimming is supposed to be a big part of it, so it makes you wonder. Like you see, like you have this over here, and normally you would think of this like okay, like I have to walk all the way around this land, go up in like maybe like this castle looking area to go around here. But if what they're saying is correct, then like all of this water that you're seeing, like like this right here, this should just all be like down here. Like so you should be able to jump from here or like off of here down into here and swim around and be in an area that looks like like this right here, for example, which could be really cool. And then makes you wonder like every map has bosses, so they're adding this in. What's the boss going to be? I mean, I feel like the assumption would be like a Kraken, right? Like a Kraken be sick. But how are they going to do something like that? I mean, I don't know. I'm excited, but Yeah, definitely seems like a really cool map design. I think just visually speaking, I like this way more than anything we have so far. I hated Ice Caves. I don't like it. I don't even think like aesthetically it looks very good. There are a couple interesting areas, but for the most part, it doesn't look very good. But from what we've seen of this map, I think this looks way cooler. Honestly, this like almost looks like reminiscent of something you see in like New World with like the super pirate theme going on. And then, like I said, like the underwater parts of the map are going to be very, very iffy. It just depends on how the ladders still work, or how they fix ladders, how swimming works, and all of that type of stuff. But other than that, I mean, it could be pretty cool. Um, Not really sure what else there is to talk about with that. Also, I want to look at this to see if they like. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Sorcerer. That's probably the other thing I should talk about. I was trying to look to see if they said anything in here I know about. Account-wide questing is good at long last. I mean, account-wide questing is something I think people have been wanting for a very, very long time, and we were very. The thing is that I think is stupid is that we were very close to it this wipe. They're like, hey, all of the crafting rewards will be account-wide. And it's like, okay, sick. Like that's actually really cool. Because then I can craft it on my characters. And I will say this to an extent, I genuinely almost preferred that to making questing account wide. And the problem with that is, I mean, this is like, like first world problems type thing. The problem with that is like whenever they quest your account wide, you can't do quest on your other characters for XP. One of the best ways to level like a character was to do a bunch of the really quick and easy quests that gave you a ton of XP, like, turning in gold ingots or killing a golem and wolves. Both of these gave you like 200 XP each, and they would literally put you from like level 1 to like level 10 almost. They pretty much saved you, an hour, 2 hours worth of time just from doing these quests. Like at a normal like times you have to do like a full like Inferno run 2 or 3 times to get level 20. You could do it in like 10, 15 minutes tops, just going in, completing the quest, and leaving instantly. But it is what it is. I think overall it's definitely more accessible for everybody. It benefits people that don't play one class because that's the main thing. It's like for me, it's like I don't really care because I mostly play fighter. I'm mostly always playing on the same character, so it's not a big deal to me whether or not it's all tied to one character because I'm getting them done at the same speed because I'm only playing one character. But I guess for the vast majority of people, it is much better. Then what was the other thing I was going to talk about? Sorcerer. So we did see a lot of stuff for Sorcerer, a lot of stuff. And I think Sorcerer looks interesting. From what we've seen, they have a ton of spells, like a ton of damage spells. Definitely looks a lot different than Wizard, where Wizard is like around half like damage spells, half utility, and things like haste, invis, light orb, ignite, that type of thing. But Sorcerer looks pretty cool. I don't know how good it's gonna be on White because the problem with it is like I mean, a lot of the spells look like they have long channel times, and you have to actually get people in them. Other than that, like I said, it looks like it's probably going to do a ton of damage, which is always the expectation. With Sorcerer is supposed to be the class that does a lot of damage. Wizard is supposed to be believe it or not, Wizard is supposed to be the utility mage, not the damage dealing mage. Um, and Sorcerer was going to be, like I said, the actual like big DPS character. I think visually, in terms of how it looks pretty cool. I think a lot of the spells they look strong, which is like a good thing. I know it sounds stupid, but like when you throw like a fireball, you want it to like look big and like explode and like look scary and look like it does damage. I think Sorcerer kind of captures that pretty well with some of the spells I've saw. Like the wall of fire, like that looked really cool. It looks intimidating. Like when they put that on the ground, it is going to scare you. Like you do not want to walk through this. Hopefully, it actually does damage. Which is crazy that I'm saying this, but hopefully it actually does something and it is intimidating and not just like, ooh, scary wall of fire. Okay, it does nothing if I walk through it. But yeah, the problem with Sorcerer, though, that I will say that's already very, very apparent that a lot of people have mentioned is it doesn't require a weapon to cast their spells. You cast with your fists, which means you have no movement speed penalty, as if you had a book out. Then you combine that with building move speed and things like bunny hopping, and they have several CC spells like their Wind Blast knockback and stuff like that. And it's like I just gotta ask. I just have to ask. It's like, what are we doing? Like, how are we supposed to deal with that? Also, one thing here that I will pull up that I'm pretty sure was leaked is a bunch of these spells. I think I just pulled it up and made it really bad quality. Hold on. Uh, Open a browser. There we go. That's much better, I think. Okay, these are a lot of the spells. Apparently, this leaked somewhere online. Somebody sent it to me earlier. I don't know where this like leaked at, but originally it leaked in like Chinese or something, and somebody translated it. That's why it looks like this. So this text isn't like obviously 100% accurate. It was translated probably with like Google Translate, but yeah. So these are I don't know if they're all of the spells for it. I mean, we have what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spells here. So maybe it's all that would be like pretty normal, I think, for a spellcaster. And this obviously doesn't have any of the combination spells, I don't think. Maybe it does. Maybe there's one of them in here. I read these all, but I think there sounded like maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But yeah, like if so, you just want to like look at these. You have flame beads. Fires a fireball forward, continuously dealing 5 with 50% scaling fire magic damage per second to the surrounding targets. The fireball lasts for 6 seconds and deals 30 with 100% scaling fire damage to the targets it touches. When the fireball touches a target, it explodes immediately, dealing an additional 15 with 100% fire magic damage scaling surrounded targets, causing a burn effect that lasts for 3 seconds to enemies. So, um, I like this is probably going to be like the way it sounds it's going to be like a slow moving fire orb, but the damage looks ridiculous. So it has like an AoE burn that it does whenever on the surrounding targets, and then whenever it actually directs something, it does 30 damage. Uh, so this is 30, so it's 30 damage it touches, and then when it touches a target, it explodes. So if you get touched by this, which I don't know, so this is what's weird to me is it's like I mean, maybe it's just translation, but if it touches you and then explodes, like that's just like why? This is just fireball over again, where you're just doing double damage. So this spell, effectively, not counting the dot damage here that you're gonna get hit with, because if you get directed by this, you're gonna have taken some form of dot damage, right, or some form of the tick damage. This is 45 base damage with 100% scaling. Just for reference, or sorry, not 100, 200%. 45 base damage with 200% scaling. Just for reference, a direct fireball is 30 with 200% scaling. Not counting fire mastery, but this is an extra 15 base damage on top of the same scaling. Then we have Xiao Bu. Fires an icy spear at the target, dealing 30 base damage with 100% frost magic damage. The icy spear can penetrate the target and deal damage over time. So I'm assuming this is like ice spear or something. I don't know what I don't know what Xiaobu is in English, but that's a lot of damage. This just looks like a ridiculous ice bolt. The icy spear can penetrate the target and deal damage over time. So penetrate the target, I would assume that means it pierces, which means it could probably hit multiple people, and then deal damage over time. Maybe it dots you, right? I don't know what else it would be. Maybe this is like some like new thing that like maybe like whenever it hits you, it sticks in you, and as long as it's in you, it does damage to you over time. I mean that's a mechanic that exists in like other games, but it also might just be like a piercing thing where it hit multiple people. Then we have Flaming Arrow, shoots 3 homing rockets at the target, each dealing 10 with 100% scaling fire magic damage and causing a burning effect over 3 seconds. So this is just 3. Okay, I mean this is 3 homing rockets that deal 10 damage. Okay, hold on. Each of them deal 10 damage with 100% scaling. So this is 30 damage with 300% scaling if this works the way I'm expecting it to. This is just pretty much consider this like magic missile, right? That's what you should assume this as. This is magic missile. Because I'm assuming they specified each dealing 10 damage with like the scaling, so it should mean each of them count as individual damage sources. So each of them do 10 with 100, 10 with 100, 10 with 100, which is 30 with 300 damage scaling, 300% scaling. Which if you just think of like true damage, then this is going to be like 24 true damage minimum on top of the fucking million damage you're taking. And it's homing, which is cancers. This is gonna get nerfed probably ASAP. Stone Skin. Cover your entire body with rocks for 6 seconds, then gain 10% physical damage reduction and 15% physical damage bonus, but you will lose 10 extra movement speed. This is interesting. I can't imagine this is good on a spellcaster. I mean, it's like, I guess good defensively, but I don't see a situation where you want 10% PDR over 10 extra move speed as a caster literally ever. If you could cast this on your teammate, this is really, really good. But I'm not sure if you can. But yeah, that seems like a very weird. That seems like a very weird spellcaster spell to have. Then we have Breakout. Causes a ground explosion, knocking all targets in range away and dealing 20 with 100% scaling earth magic damage to all targets. So an AoE CC ability that does a lot of damage as well. Pretty straightforward here. Just I mean, not a lot to say about that. So I wonder, do what I wonder means when it says not knocking targets in range away. Is it like Because they usually have, it has knock away, and then this over here to storm. This is like the wind magic. This is knocks it back. So is knocking it away and knocking them back? Do you knock them up? Like how does it work? This isn't like exactly specific. Just says away. Like up is away, like up and away, but who knows? And we have Storm. It deals 5 base damage with 100% scaling gas magic. I'm assuming it's supposed to be wind magic. Damage to the target, knocking it back. This is probably like your survivability spell. It's very very little damage, but it has CC on it. So try to save yourself with this. Uh, Something that's really interesting is if this right here like knocks people up into the air, you could like knock them up and then knock them back and send them flying like a mile away. That could be a pretty like funny mechanic as you can do, like knock people off and stuff. I can already see people like getting killed in ice caves by like getting knocked like up and like away, if that's like how this actually works. Like just getting thrown across the room into the void or something would be really funny. Then we have Electric Spark. Casts an electromagnetic barrier around the caster within 6 seconds, which then, I'm assuming since within, I'm assuming 4 means 6 seconds, which then shocks all nearby targets, dealing 10 damage with 100% scaling lightning magic damage per second. So it's AoE around you that lasts for 6 seconds. That just damages people every single second they're in there. So this is effectively a 60 damage, 600% scaling spell if you are in melee. And I know people are like, well, when are you ever going to take the full damage of this? I mean, it's just good to look at the numbers for what they are. That's kind of insane, but because the problem with this is like if the damage is really that high and they cast it, like you just have to like walk away from them, right? Like that is like the big thing. Like imagine they cast this and you're trying to be in melee and they like flame beat you, right? And they just like insta nuke you because you take 1,000,000 damage, or you get hit by, I don't know, flaming arrow or Xiaobu. Like what if they just like shit on you with Xiaobu and electric spark? This is the thing I was talking about. Is like Sorcerer's damage seems absolutely ridiculous, which is my main issue with the thing like Storm and Breakout of these two spells here. They're two CC spells. It's like if you are going to do this level of damage while also not having a movement speed penalty on casting, then you know how does anyone kill you? How do you die in melee outside of like a landmine rogue or like a cutthroat rogue or like a panther silencing you? How is a barbarian? I mean, I guess barbarian is a character. Barbarian has iron will. Honestly, really, how does fire supposed to kill you? What do I do? Huh? What does a cleric do in melee? Like, how do any or bard? How do any of those characters ever kill you in melee if you run at them and they like are taking a fucking direct fireball? Because keep in mind, like this is like insane levels of damage. By the way, that's actually like ridiculous levels of damage. And then you could pair that with something like Electric Spark, where if they are in range, like imagine you go like a PDR build and you pop like Stone Skin when you get the extra like PDR, and then you pop Electric Spark, and then somebody's in melee trying to kill you, and you're just zapping them. Sounds ridiculous. All right, then we have Summon Earth Elemental. Summons an Earth Elemental that lasts for 24 seconds. This Earth Elemental increases the caster's armor by 30 and deals 40 with 100% scaling physical damage to nearby enemies. So, exactly what I just said. It looks like Sorcerer is going to have potential to be like a complete brawler class. Um, yeah, I don't really like. I mean, getting an extra like you have 10% PDR here and 30 armor here. Just throwing this out as like a baseline with how the recent armor changes work. This 30 armor here and this 10% PDR here. So let's just say this. This is a shield, right? Like this 30 armor. That is the armor that you get from a shield. That is how much a shield gives you. 30 armor is literally that's like a purple heater shield. Another 10% PDR here. I mean, that's like putting on like a piece of plate armor. Then you combine that with actually just like I said, the armor changes. Sorcerer is going to easily be able to get 50% PDR if you combine these two. And like I said, yes, they will lose move speed for this. However, like what if they have good melee weapons, you could just fight people. Because later down here they have something called freeze. Like I am already seeing the vision that Sorcerer absolutely could be an incredibly strong melee class, just off like the merit of how many like buff they have for themselves. And then I don't necessarily. I mean, the Earth Elements will probably work like the Golem or something, but this damage, 40 damage, is crazy. Even if you don't build any physical scaling for this, 40 base damage is fucking nuts. That is a lot of goddamn damage, especially when you consider this is just another thing that exists. You turn a 3v3 or a 2v2 or a 1v1 into +1. Like you roll up on ones and you're never solo. You got the goon with you. Like, what do you do with that? Like, what the fuck? And then moving on after that, because I mean this is one of those things you're gonna have to see in the game to like really like judge. And so I will say the big thing about stuff like this is keep in mind for all of these spells they do not have spell charges. They have cooldowns. So they can throw an Earth Elemental up. Okay, I'm gonna say this right now, and I pray to God they've considered this because I know this is something that happens a lot of their spells. if Earth Elemental's cooldown starts the moment you summon it rather than the moment it dies, this shit is going to be busted. They are going to have this walking around with them at all points in time. Anyways, Whirlwind generates a whirlwind centered on the caster. Targets that come into contact with the whirlwind are knocked back and take 10 with 100% scaling. Once again, probably wind magic damage. Um, so that seems insane. Uh, so okay, this is centered on the caster. Does that mean it's like when you, it's like it's like Mending Grove, like where you place it, and it places where you were at, or does like it doesn't follow you though, like something. I don't know if there's anything else that would, but like does this follow you around and can you walk onto it? Because if that's the thing, uh, so if that's the thing, then you have to wonder. Because it says targets that come into contact with the whirlwind are knocked back, take damage. Like, would you take damage from your own whirlwind? Because a lot of spells can damage their user. Like, even like wizard can lightning strike themselves. If that's the case, do you have to cast this and just stand inside of it and not move? Because if so, that sounds like really bad. You're just gonna die to any range stuff. But if this actually places you know, like not on you or it follows you or something, this is gonna be insane. Like just having like another thing that makes melee like having something else that makes melee characters just not get on you is like ridiculous. Like this is now a third crowd control spell that a full damage caster has had access to, along with a defensive buff and a summon that also gives him another defensive buff. Then we have Fire Strike. Releases a flame column that lasts for 3 seconds. The flame column will cause 30 with 100% scaling fire magic damage to the target the moment it is generated, and 10 with 50% fire magic damage scaling per second to the enemies in the flame column, which causes a burning effect that lasts for 3 seconds. So, I mean, this is just like a fire pillar. It just looks like it does a lot of damage. Uh, so the real thing is that makes you wonder is like a spell like this, is this going to be a channel spell? Um, because like by the sound of it, like this could be like if this could be like a channel spell at Locust Swarm, or it could be something you cast down and it sits down there. And if it's like a channel, then it's probably not that good because generally channels just aren't very good. You have to like especially like these big like long casting ones because there's just so much time to be interrupted or it's so hard to actually get a good cast off. Magic Missile is an exception to channel spells because like it's really quick and has a really bunch of burst damage up close and it's like a melee using spell. Like these are like you do this at ranged and you try to damage people. So, but if you're stuck in like a casting animation for this, it's just not that good because you're always susceptible to range damage or just any other random bullshit like your spell being canceled. Then we have Freeze. Infuse the weapon with frost power within 15 or for 15 seconds, freezing the target for 1 second. So, I mean, at face value, this is just Viola, right? Like this just gives every weapon Viola, which is what I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the Stone Skin, Golem, Storm, or not Storm, Electric Spark pair. You just give your weapon a like a freezing effect, which is effectively the thing is if this freezing effect is like the frostbite that we know from like Viola or the Ice Caves mobs, then this is effectively it. This is not only a damage buff, assuming it gives you damage. Which I don't know why it wouldn't. That'd be weird. I mean, it doesn't have damage on here actually, so maybe it doesn't. But this is effectively a defensive tool. You melee somebody, they get lowered movement speed and action speed. Like that is just another defensive tool that you can pair with something like Stone Skin or Summon Earth Elemental, and Electric Spark, which seems like absolutely absurd. If that is the case, if this actually does that, this shit is gonna have to get nerfed because having to, bro. The thing is, this okay, this is for 15 seconds, by the way. I don't know if they were like, hey, we want to make our cooldowns longer because, or we want to make the effects last longer because they're cooldown based. But can you imagine every single like, bro? Why would you ever run Viola after this? Every bard you fight that has a sorcerer on his team is just gonna have Viola. Every single one. Every fighter is just gonna have Viola on like. Can you have like a bro, Viola arming sword? Like I am bricked. Like yeah, who, like what I'm saying? Like that's gonna be ridiculous. Then we have Water Bomb. Fires a ball of condensed water that deals 20 flat damage with 100% scaling, frost magic damage to the target it touches. It makes the target wet for 2 seconds. The oh, the ball stops when it touches an object or reaches its maximum distance and lasts a total of 12 seconds. Up to 3 water balls can exist at the same time. Um. So okay, so this is actually interesting. What do you mean up to 3 can exist at the same time? Uh, does this mean like when okay? This says it stops and touches. Oh, okay. Well, okay. For this to if it only lasts 12 seconds. For this to last 12 seconds, that means this cooldown has to be like incredibly low, like 3 or 4 seconds, or maybe 5. And with CDR, you can reduce it. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you just like set up like a land field, I guess, and it says it makes the target wet. We don't know what wet is as a debuff yet. Maybe it's like a lower move speed, lower action speed, something like that, something similar to frost. Maybe you take more damage from lightning spells, less damage from fire spells, like in a normal other game. But that's definitely interesting. We don't know what this does yet, but this is pretty cool. I think like a spell like this is actually pretty interesting. Gives you like strategic play with like hold like setting up spells. Like you can like sit these in a doorway or something, and people just can't step through them unless they want to take the guaranteed damage, which like I said, it's pretty interesting. Lightning missile fires a lightning beam over 5 seconds, electrocuting the target and dealing 10 with a 100% scaling lightning magic damage per second. So like a flamethrower type spell, but with lightning. Which like I like it's like pretty common. Like a lot of mages in games have like like a staff flamethrower they're shooting, but they're usually pretty shitty. But that seems pretty interesting. That's cool. It says electrocuting the target. Lightning spell is normally slow, so if this slows, that could be pretty cancer. But overall, it doesn't seem to be like that crazy. I mean, the damage does seem pretty good. I mean, 50 or what 50 base damage with 500% scaling is kind of insane. Depending on how it works. I mean, maybe the scaling is or maybe the scaling's not individual, but in case, I mean, even if scaling's not individual, then it's 50 damage with 100% scaling, which is still really high. Really, really high. Overall, also, like I said, these are just the base spells of Sorcerer. These are not any of the combo spells. The combo spells all work by combining spells, so all of these have combinations, which I assume we will get things like a flamethrower, or maybe like and like like the flame column with the like and the something else makes like the fire pillar, right? Like the actual combination spells. Overall, I think Sorcerer looks incredibly broken. How good it's actually gonna be, I mean, it's anybody's guess, just because it depends on the meta shapes up, how hard it actually is to build for the class, cast times, and stuff like that. Because that's the big thing is we don't know any like we see their spells, we don't know any of their cast times, and we don't know any of their like cooldowns. One big thing I do want to mention actually that I think is pretty interesting is this is our first character that is like actually cooldown dependent, which means building resourcefulness for the cooldown could actually be really, really big. And I know Ken's already thought of this, and Ken's gonna go crazy on it with his 50 resourcefulness sorcerer build. But yeah, like this is the first class that cooldown is actually gonna be a very valuable stat on because all of your damage is tied to CDR. But yeah, that is going to mostly wrap it up for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions down below on Sorcerer. How good you think it's going to be, how broken you think it's going to be, how terrified you are of it to play as it against as a fighter player. I know I am. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.